Daymond John, founder and CEO of Fubu and CEO of the Shark Group. He's also author of a new book, Power Shift: Transform Any Situation, Close Any Deal, and Achieve Any Outcome. Very good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So many encouraging statements from business leaders this week, Daymond. Are you hopeful that there will be real lasting action to follow?
I am hopeful. I'm glad that they're putting it out there. I think that, I'm advising a lot of the CEOs that I know that the first step, though, is to listen to your staff internally. I had to have a meeting with my entire staff, and I'm a man of color, and many of them are not. And I knew there were questions. A lot of people that are not minorities just don't understand, but they feel like they want to do and they don't know where to start. So internally, have those tough questions being asked. Find out how your colleague or your staff feels that are of color, and have the other individuals who may not be of color ask also other things, and they'll start to get more insight. It has to start within the company. And then, of course, it is amazing that they're going out to help other organizations that are helping, the Black community.
I just mentioned the diversity numbers at Nike of 23%, which is actually higher, I think, than a lot of the rest of corporate America, which doesn't even publish this. Diversity and inclusion, Daymond, have been hot buzzwords for years now. ESG, it was all the rage. Why do you think these numbers are still so low? And do you have hope that they are going to grow at any rapid pace as a result of this moment we're in right now?
It's due to, unfortunately, systemic racism. Listen, the women movement was in 1960, and it took up until Weinstein, 60 years later to really start making legislation that means that a woman's voice was heard, that she can take it to court, and she can have her day in court in the event that she's treated like that. It's the same thing. When you're hiring practices, when you say, listen, if you happen to be a felon, let us know. Well, then all felons aren't created equal. I know somebody who had $1,000 worth of drugs on them, and they spent 10 years in jail. And if systemic racism is to arrest as many people of color as you can, then you immediately make it hard for people who are employers to hire them, because they look at it as if the guy was or the girl was Scarface. So there's a lot of systemic racism. But true entrepreneurs, what they do is they find a problem in the market, they identify the problem, they listen, they do their homework, and then they figure it out. And this is what you have to do. It starts with the systemic racism before you can get to help your company. You need to understand some of the things to make these adjustments.
Is there racism, Daymond, when it comes to access to capital as well?
Absolutely. There's racism when it comes to access to capital. Listen, the banks often have not given, minorities the interest rates that they would give traditional others. Again, going back to asking if they had a felony or a crime, and then you also may not have the generational wealth that was passed down or the education. You don't necessarily have the mentors, the grandparents and the great-grandparents who had businesses to talk about how interest works, setting up the fundamentals of a company. So this goes back a long way. But how can people fix it now is to listen and understand for your internally who your staff is, and then you'll be able to externally communicate in a better way.
I mean, this is all coming at such a hard time for the overall economy, and especially for Black employment and Black economics. I mean, we got the jobs report today, Daymond, and it showed job gains and unemployment fell. But for Black Americans, that rate rose 16.8%. It was higher than the national average. The rate for whites was 12.4%. How do we fix that?
It starts with education again, and it starts with being open to hiring more people and diversifying your team and understanding that you're going to get more value. You're going to get more creativity from 2 different or 4 different parties looking at things a different way. But you have to put the change within your hiring practice. You can't force it. I don't force any person of color or not of my color to that be the initiative. But you got to at least say, I'm going to give them a shot and give them a try. And I'm going to look at the things such as felonies, records, education. Most of my employees came from good schools because they were interns and started. But if African Americans don't have access to that type of education, then the pool you're going to come from and take out of, it's not going to be filled with too many people of color. So maybe you should look in other pools as well for people that could be part of your team.
Daymond, I wanted to pivot, if I may, to talk a little bit about how the businesses that you speak to so often, that you are invested in, are feeling at the moment in light of the coronavirus. Clearly, the stock market pretty much back to being flat year to date. Does that kind of tally with what you're hearing from the businesses you invest in?
No, the businesses I'm investing in, half of them are doing really amazing because they may have been people or companies that directly deal with their consumers. And some of them are high-touch businesses, whether it's restaurants or it's service areas. So it's all across the board in regards to that. In regards to other CEOs that I'm talking to, it's the same thing. They're all just trying to make a change. But the stock market to us is not really reflecting what we're doing in business right now.
One more interesting example as it relates to business and the race issue, Daymond. Today, the Reddit co-founder, Alexis Ohanian, I don't know if you saw it, he stepped down from his own board, saying that he was stepping down to urge the company to replace him with a black candidate, saying that he's writing it as a father who needs to be able to answer his black daughter when she asks, "What did you do?" What do you say to Alexis Ohanian? Is that the kind of action you want to see in corporate America?
I do. I think that is absolutely amazing. I take my hat off because, he's actually taking action, and other people will hopefully follow suit, whether they want to step down or not, or they want to say we need to include this. People are starting to identify a lot now with what's going on, and people of all colors are taking to the streets to make sure that everybody knows that this is wrong and there needs to be change. And you're seeing action like that where other people will follow. I think it's absolutely amazing.
I mean, the only question is, and I've heard this from business leaders, not necessarily on air, is how do you do this in a way that doesn't alienate people, where you make them feel that they're only being put on the board because they're, the token minority or the token black person. The same thing with women, whether it's from quotas or just a rising awareness to the moment. How do you do it in an inclusive way where, you find the qualified people and you make them feel included?
Yeah, I think people will understand that they're getting this opportunity. But if you're going after a pool of people you think are brilliant, listen, when Jackie Robinson understood that he was somewhat of a token, he was also a great athlete and a great player, and he overperformed. And I think that you should also take that in consideration. Don't have anybody that you include in there, and if they don't meet up to the standards, you have to get rid of them because it will make us all look bad, both sides, all colors, if we have people there who are not up to the standard. But there are many people who are up to the standard who just didn't get their shot. And I think that we have to do that now.